This is Kamera again. We're on day number 249, Ezekiel chapter 23 through 24. Ezekiel, poor Ezekiel, the man of God, the prophet of God. Oh my God, guys, today's read. Remember, guys, that he goes out and give these messages to God's people, messages from God. And God uses him as a symbol, as a sign, as an illustration, as a visual to push the messages. Oh, poor Ezekiel. My heart's going out for Ezekiel today, guys. But we have to remember that God is our creator. And he created us for his purpose. He loves us. He loves us very, very much. But we don't like some of the things that he allows us to go through. But Ezekiel, guys, before we get to that part where I'm hurting for Ezekiel, God talks about these two sisters. These two sisters who became prostitutes, he says. I mean, this read right here, it was so graphic in how he's married to these sisters, and when they were in Egypt, how they prostituted then, and he talks about how a man and a woman, how a man persuades a woman, or just and how the woman just gives up herself, and he's pretty kind of graphic in the funneling of the breast and stuff like that, but he's talking about how he married these two sisters. The two sisters I'm going to try to say their names, Ahola and Aholabah. These two sisters who became prostitutes. Ahola is Samaria. Samaria is the capital of Israel. And Aholabah is Jerusalem, the capital of Judah. And the prostitute is basically them leaving God and messing around with these, being enticed by these idols and the ways of the land. For instance, Assyria, Ahola. Okay, Samaria, Israel, they were enticed by the Assyrians and their idols, and they did some detestable things. And then he's like, and Aholabah, they did this. They saw what Samaria did. Aholabah is Judah, Jerusalem. They saw what Israel did. They saw what Samaria did. And they're following their footsteps and doing even worse with Babylon. The detestable things, the murders, the worship of idols, the sacrificing their children to fire for these idols and all this other stuff. And he just goes through it and tells us a lot of things that they did. Aholabah saw what happened to her sister and followed the footsteps even more so with Babylon. And he said he allowed their lovers, Assyria and Babylon, to take them and do what they wanted to do with them. So we already know Israel went into exile, and we know with the Assyrians, and we know that the Judah went into exile with Babylon. But yeah. But what get me? He said that they were doing that way back in Egypt, messing around the Egyptian idols. Isn't that something? So, yeah, and even up until now, we already know the story, guys, of how Israel just defiled themselves with those idols. And God has tried numerous times to get them on his side and to do right by him. And they just didn't want to do that. So, yeah, some of the things he said that they did, these two sisters. He says, you must accuse both sisters, Ezekiel, of their detestable sins. And some of the things were adultery. There were murderers. There were worshipers of idols and sacrificing their children and other detestable sins. Yeah, those two sisters. But anyway, fast forward. God tells Ezekiel to record this date. This date is the day that Babylon attacks Jerusalem, begin their attack on Jerusalem. He gives Ezekiel this illustration that he needs to perform. where he takes this cooking pot and he burns it on fire, and he tells them to fill it up with all these meats and the bones. And then he tells them to take out the meat according to whatever the meats were, sheep, lamb, or what have you. And he says, I want you to burn those bones. And he says the cooking pot is basically Jerusalem being the cooking pot. Jerusalem is the cooking pot. And he tells them to burn those bones, right? After he removed the meat, burn the bones. And God says, after that, he says, now burn away all of the corruption. Because they were committing a lot of corruption. Burn away all the filth of the corruption. And then he says it's hopeless. He said the corruption can't be cleaned. Yeah. He said, I tried to cleanse you, but you refused to. God tried to cleanse those people, but they refused to. They refused to be cleaned. Isn't that something? So he says you will be judged on the basis of your wicked actions, says the sovereign Lord. Isn't that something how God put things down? How he tries in different ways to push his point. And again, guys, there were many prophets around that time, but Ezekiel, I find he uses Ezekiel to be that sign, that symbol, that illustration, that visual to push his point. For instance, poor Ezekiel. God tells Ezekiel that he's going to take away his greatest treasure. This man of God, who is going out speaking for God boldly, he's going to take away his greatest treasure. Your person who's doing what you want to do, Lord, you're taking away his treasure, really? And he says, you must not show any sorrow. You can groan silently, but you're not to do any of the rituals that comes with this. You're not supposed. I don't want you to display any type of sorrow in any way, shape, or form. So he goes out and he proclaims what God wants him to say to the people. And that very evening, God takes away his wife. God kills his wife. His wife dies. So, Lord, you don't want me to grieve for my wife. You don't want me to shed any tears for my wife. You don't want me to show any forms or do any rituals that shows that I'm in mourning right now. He said, you can groan silently. But that is it. So God, remember, Ezekiel is the symbol. He's the sign. And that was very hard the first time I ever read that. Yeah. But we're all here for a purpose, for a time. And we all leave in different ways. And we don't like the way certain people leave here. We don't like how certain people left here. But everybody's here for a certain purpose. And that was her purpose. Yeah. It hurts. I know it hurts. So God says he will defile the temple, Jerusalem's temple, the temple of God, their most sacred place, this place of security and pride for the children of Israel, of Judah. And he says that your sons and daughters who you left, they're going to be slaughtered. And he says, I want you to do just as Ezekiel did. I don't want you to mourn for any of that. I don't want you to show any sorrow. I want you to use Ezekiel as an example. You will do as Ezekiel did. Ezekiel, the man of God, the prophet of God, who God had already said he's going to use him as a symbol, as a sign to go out and proclaim the messages. Yeah. So guys, we don't understand a lot of things why God do things. But it is God who created us for his purpose. And, yeah, we just have to trust him and keep it trucking. And Ezekiel was obedient. And the people were wondering. They were like, what is this all about, Ezekiel? And he was able to explain to them what God was going to do and how God wanted them to handle it. Yeah. So there you have it, guys. It's day number 249, Ezekiel chapter 23 through 24. You have a God-filled, blessed day.